Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
Every single Jedi, including your friend Obi-Wan Kenobi, is now an enemy of the Republic.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Heather Allred, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 67. Today, we're going to talk about Order 66 and bring you some more C2E2 fun. So joining me in the discussion today is Mr. Julian, as we called him last week, Aaron Julian.
Hello, everyone. Good to be back.
And of course, we have Todd Hoffman. Todd, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I was like, did you hear me? Were you paying attention? Hello?
Oh, that's awesome.
So Aaron gets brownie points today, everybody, because he brought a friend.
Hooray! Who are you, friend?
Hello there.
So
You brought a good old JD Barrow, a classmate of mine. So say hello to everybody, JD.
Hello there.
hello.
Excellent.
So JD, go. I know we're all excited. JD, we're just too excited. We're too excited.
We're too excited to meet you, dude.
Oh goodness, it's too much pressure.
All right, JD, tell us your Star Wars story.
My Star Wars story. So I guess the main way it started my love and my involvement and joy for Star Wars was probably just playing video games with my brother. You know, you've got classic, Star Wars Battlefront, the good ones. You've got, the Knights of the Old Republic games. You got Republic Commandos, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy. And then from there, I watched all the movies growing up as a kid. Started with 4, 5, and 6, on VHS, which doesn't exist anymore. It's an old relic.
From a more civilized age.
And since then, I've just always been in love with Star Wars. Just the lore, the mythos, the world building. I've been there for the ups, and the downs, and I love it. It's been a big part of my life.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast. We're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you can check us out on social media. That's WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. We're all over the place. Email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. Don't be like Juan from Miami, Florida, who gave us a call today and maybe missed a few numbers because it was a very interesting voicemail, one which we will not play on the episode today. But you can catch all our catalog of episodes at www.wstrmedia.com. That's www.wstrmedia.com. Got something new on the podcast now. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. That's right, we're official. We sold out. You can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial of Audible at audibletrial.com/WSTR. They got over 180,000 titles to choose from. You can listen to it on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player for the 5 people who still have that. Yes, so, JD.
Hello.
Word on the street is you've been listening to Audible.
Yes, I have been listening to Audible.
What have you been listening to?
Unfortunately, I am not sponsored by them. I wish I was.
But we are, so we will benefit from your dutiful hard work.
The most recent book I listened to it's by an author named Scott Lynch. It is called The Lies of Loch Lamora.
Ooh,
it is
very Scottish.
Yes, it is a fantasy type book. I won't spoil anything, but it's basically, the basic premise is it's about a con man in a world where con men are not allowed to exist.
Ooh.
And it's a very excellent read. You can, like you said, you can listen to it on your phone, so it's great for, college students or people who've got to travel a lot. You just pop in some headphones and you're off. And the narrator on this one, I forget his name, he's very good, just pulls you in, and it's a fantastic listen.
Excellent. Now, Todd, you've got a long commute, don't you?
I do, yes.
You travel the Outer Rim.
I'm from the Outer Rim, and I travel to Coruscant every day. So,
man, yes. So you could benefit from some.
It takes a lot of parsecs
audiobooks
to get there, my friend.
Yes. So maybe you could try something like, I don't know, The Girl on the Train, The Hobbit.
What about the guy on the train?
The guy on the train. That's a sequel. That's not out yet.
Spoilers.
It's a sequel. It's a sequel.
Yes.
It's a prequel.
Yeah.
Actually.
There you go. Guy meets girl on the train. All right. So if you want to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/WSTR. Throw a few bones our way. You get a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial of audible.com. Everybody wins.
Hooray.
Winners!
Everyone wins, exactly. All right, moving on to our main topic.
And now for our feature presentation.
So Order 66.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, bum, bum, bum.
Wipe them out.
Sorry.
Oh,
That's episode 1, dude. Come on, man.
Oh.
Execute Order 66.
Yeah, there you go. See, JD's got it right. So
Knew I brought him on for a reason.
right, exactly. We tried last week. We're like, okay, circled it on the calendar. This is the 66th episode. We got to talk about Order 66. Well, then, Disney had to drop a trailer. We were so excited about C2E2. It just, all good plans sometimes go to waste. So we're throwing a curveball, and it just like Star Wars, we're messing up the order. So we're doing Order 66 on episode 67. Not a big deal. Life goes on.
Star Wars went out of order, so can
life
we.
goes on.
Right.
So we're here to talk about Order 66. So it's he says execute Order 66, and then everything kind of goes like hell in a handbasket. It just all kind of falls apart very quickly. So we're talking about Revenge of the Sith, and this is on the third act of the movie, which kind of sets everything in motion. And it doesn't go well for our Jedi friends. So again, just kind of a little bit world building, the Emperor has been scheming for a very, very, very long time, and this is like the final piece. And when he says these words, basically the clone troopers that are part of the clone army turn on the Jedi. And in the film, it's in the film. It's kind of Cody gives Obi-Wan his lightsaber, and Obi-Wan is on Utapau with his little, I think that's a Varactyl. I'm not really sure what he's right. It's
like a rat, lizard, cat thing.
It's got feathers.
Yes. It's a
scientific
bird,
term
lizard kind of thing. So Cody gives him a lightsaber, and that's when he gets the word from Emperor Palpatine, the execute Order 66, and you're like, hey, what's that? Oh, then they shoot Obi-Wan off the cliff, and then he falls down the big sinkhole planet, and there's this really, like, the Varactyl does this really sad cry, and it's like, that's the start of the downward spiral. And and John Williams' score at this point is just on point. It is like super sad. And so Obi-Wan kind of falls in the water, and the next thing you see, now you're kind of you're jumping around, because not only is there stuff going on in Utapau, but there's stuff going in Kashyyyk, Megiddo, Felucia, Jedi Temple, Mandalore. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. So the next scene is our big brained Jedi Kedi Mundai, and he's on, I think he's on Megiddo, and he's like, "Come on, guys, let's go!" And all the snowtroopers kind of stop
right across the bridge.
they're crossing a bridge, and all the snowtroopers stop and blast them, and it's very sad.
Oh, so
sad. And then I think the next scene is our Ayla Secura, who is from our Dark Horse comic that George loves so much that he put her in the film. And she's on Felucia, I think that's how you say it, Felucia. And there's a bunch of like
Felicia,
flora, and all that kind of stuff. And same thing, she's kind of walking around, and she got shot up, and yeah, it's just
bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
No, don't bring that back. Let the past die.
Dude, that's horrible.
That's
horrible. That's horrible.
I do not apologize.
That's a great joke. Then there's
it's awful. Don't laugh.
It's so bad. It's good. Then it's Plo Koon, and he's on Nemodia, and he's flying a ship, and same thing. You kind of see a hologram come by, and it's Order X. They kind of fly back, and he gets shut up in the sky. Yeah. And I think the last Jedi we see is Stas Ali, and I don't know where she's at, but she's on a speeder bike, and they kind of drop back and shoot her up. Her speeder goes one way, she hits the rock. It's not good.
Yep.
It's a nice little nod to episode 6 there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Straight into the redwood tree.
Right. Bye, Jedi. And then the next scene is probably the worst scene of them all, which is, at this point you see there is a flash before this scene where you see Anakin and the 501st rolling up on the Jedi Temple. And after we see the speeder bike crash, then it goes back to the temple, and he enters into this is Yoda's, like, I think they're called the Bear Clan, and they're all the little Jedi younglings, and and
then we stop talking.
Yeah, well, then
they all go out for ice cream.
Yeah, we all go for ice cream.
Right. And then it's really just like she goes, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do? And Anakin just
gives him this look.
Just gives him a look and ignites a lightsaber, and the kid kind of steps back, and you're just like, oh, it got real.
Oh, no.
It got real quick. And, from a filmmaking perspective, I think this is probably one of the most powerful parts that George ever did, because it's like,
oh, for sure.
This one, it has a PG-13 rating, but like, just the thought of that happening is enough to, you don't need to see it. It's not even necessary,
Yeah. We got dead kids.
Yeah. And just the fact that, this is also kind of, I would say something back to episode 2, when we kind of saw Anakin when he took out the Tusken Raider camp. He's like, I killed everyone, like he slaughtered them, and they're like animals, and this, that was a step into that direction of the dark side. And so, yeah, it's heart-wrenching. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then that pretty much ends from a technical perspective, that ends the Order 66 thing. But then we have, and then the last part is really Yoda's feeling that in the Force. He's on Kashyyyk, and Tarful and Chewbacca with him, and these 2 scout troopers try to get a jump on him, and he lops off their heads. 1-2.
Because he knows
what's up. He knows up.
Yep.
You ain't fooling him.
You ain't fooling the Jedi Master. So that really kind of concludes Order 66, and then it kind of progresses a little bit, but then we kind of go. Then Obi-Wan and Yoda get to the temple, and that's where that's the the knife edge chop, I think, because they're walking in the temple and they just see there's Jedi everywhere dead, and then they come upon one of them, and Yoda's like, this one wasn't, this youngling wasn't killed by a blaster. It's a lightsaber, and Obi-Wan's like, who, and they recalibrate, because that's the other thing that interesting that they did is that they meaning the clone army put out a beacon for all the Jedi to come to Coruscant, and they realized that we shouldn't do that, and so Obi-Wan reconfigured. It's a trap. Like, stay away from Coruscant, basically. And so that's when Obi-Wan it's like, I have to see what happened, and Yoda's like, only pain you will find, and he got to see enough, So that's in a nutshell is Order 66. But what are your thoughts about? Boy, such a great uplifting topic on episode 67.
Welcome to episode 67. We got dead kids.
Hooray. So
how did Trent respond to this when he first saw it?
That's a good question. Because again, it's not something you have to totally see. He understands that, and it just goes back to, I always tell him, Anakin was making bad choices, and it really is. It's a series of bad choices, trying to extend life, and he thinks he's doing it for love, but it's selfish and that kind of thing. And that one's a deep one. So we don't watch Revenge of the Sith too much just because it's pretty heavy, very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So Aaron, what are your thoughts of Order 66?
Well, the lore probably cancels this interpretation out, but my thinking on it kind of goes back. I mean, I think with the Empire in general, we're talking about space Nazis here. So I think it kind of goes back to the whole final solution kind of deal, where you basically just over time you get like the regular civilian populace of a place more and more accustomed to doing more and more horrible things until they're like wiping out people, that used to be their friends. And we'll talk about the little inhibitor chip thing later. JD has some words about that. But there's this great book called, I think it's called Ordinary Men. Okay. And it's basically about this group of Polish men in World War II who lived together, and then the Nazis invaded Poland and took it over, and basically the local police force recruited them to kind of try to keep order around the place. And basically the Nazis came up to them and said, look, like, this is wartime, you're gonna have to do some pretty unpleasant things, but you don't have to. You can leave if you want. And what it came down to was that nobody in this group of men wanted to leave the dirty work to their friends. Okay. And they didn't want to leave them down, so they never stepped out. And so it started with things like rounding up all the Jewish people who were of military age. So say like 18 to, I think, 65 is like the oldest that they went up to, rounding them up and then, confining them to the ghetto. And then that steps up horribly and drastically until, they're like killing pregnant women in the field, just out in the open. It's like, wow, geez. And so the scary thing is we, and this is getting like pretty philosophical now, but we tend to think that we're pretty good, morally upstanding people. And, if we were in World War II then we'd protect the Jewish people, but in all likelihood we wouldn't, statistically. And it's because of that like slow progression from doing pretty bad things to truly horrendous things. And it's got me really thinking, like, and this is like something I still haven't resolved, but it's like, are we truly good people, or have we just not been given the opportunity to do really bad things? And it's like, oof, that'll keep you up at night.
That's a deep cut right there, my friend.
Yeah. And so you apply that to the clones, and it's like, okay, they're identical, but they've all got their own personal experiences, and they kind of have this brotherhood going as a clone army, in that they went through the whole Clone Wars together. They fought and died for each other. They lived for each other, and the Jedi have kind of been alongside them all the way. And now with Order 66 given, it's like suddenly they've got to turn all that off and just wipe them out. And maybe they had to have known the whole time that, okay, eventually this order's going to come through, and this is something that we're going to have to be prepared to do. And we get a bit of characterization with the clones, with like General Cody. He's got a name. It's like, oh, he knows Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan seems to trust him, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. But then he just flip a switch. He's got to turn around and kill Obi-Wan. So I would say that's one weakness against that, is it doesn't happen at a flip of a switch. And I think the Clone Wars writers kind of knew that, and so they had the whole inhibitor chip thrown in, which completely undermines the entire point that I've been trying to make. And the meaning from that.
Yeah.
So JD, maybe you wanna detail that.
Okay, so for those who didn't watch the Clone Wars, you can pause the podcast right now and go watch it. There's like 5 seasons of it on Netflix.
Just watch them all, just binge watch them all. Yeah.
We'll wait for you.
Call off work.
Actually, you just need to watch season 6 Lost Episodes, and you'll be caught right up.
Yeah. So that season specifically deals with the inhibitor chip. So before the Clone Wars came out, the general concept of Order 66 was that the clones were trained and raised from birth. They were given a selection of executive orders. I think there was maybe, someone correct me if I'm wrong about this, but there was like 138 or something orders. There was a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. There's different protocols, basically. Yeah. Like
one was to overthrow the entire Senate. One was to arrest the Chancellor.
Oh, no.
One was to like lock down Coruscant under like military, rule. There were a lot of orders. And so 66 was just it was literally slipped into the middle of this. Kind of like a U.S. law bill slipping something in the middle. Nobody's going to read it. No, nobody reads it.
A rider.
And it was slipped in there because Palpatine, Emperor Sidious wanted all the Jedi to die, but he was trying to make it look like these were all just what if scenarios that the clones had to be ready to save the Republic, right? And so they were literally indoctrinated into this philosophy that the Republic and being a soldier and following orders is their primary identity. And the fact that they happen to be human was kind of a drawback for them personally. It made them better than droids.
Yeah.
It helped the Republic win the war. But for a clone trooper, it really sucked having emotions and having humanity. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Battlefront 2 game by Pandemic.
Very much.
Yeah. Great game.
Great game.
So that
Great
game. Yeah. Great game. Go buy it. Bring back Pandemic.
You're telling
Hey, it's on Steam now.
JD, you're telling a lot of pausing. Like, okay, pause, go watch 6 seasons of Clone Wars. After you're done with that, then you got to play Battlefront 2. Not the new one, the old one. Play that for a little bit. Then come back.
Well, or you can just listen to this great podcast, episode 67. We've got all the details for you.
Right.
There you go.
audibletrial.com/WSTR.
Audibletrial.
And welcome back, everyone,
okay,
from your vacation of playing video games and listening or watching 6 seasons of Clone Wars. Here we go.
And
Continue. Yeah. No, so in Battlefront 2, there's the campaign follows a list of a series of narrations by one anonymous clone trooper. He's in the 501st, and it's basically just a diary. You know, dear diary, killed some droids today. Pretty
More
fun,
clankers.
You know. More clankers.
got lunch at Portillo's.
Yeah, right.
Got lunch at Portillo's.
Great day.
Anakin cried a bit, you know.
And wines.
Yeah. Obi-Wan made a joke about something.
Right.
Yeah. Normal stuff. And when he talks about Order 66, it very much reflects what you were talking about, Todd, with the soundtrack and the tone of Order 66 in Episode 3. It's very somber, it's very dark, and he says these lines, you know, he says he asks, did any of us have any traitorous thoughts, any doubts about what we were doing? Maybe, but nobody said a word. You know, not when we got the order, not when we got flown back to Coruscant, and not when we marched into the Jedi Temple. Not a single word. And so originally, this was obviously a huge detriment to the Jedi and a big lie to the Republic as a whole. But the clones who were actually caught in the middle of Order 66, they were supposed to be this kind of unsung martyrs who truly believed that the Republic and that following orders and saving the very civilization they had been bred to protect was worth everything else. You know, it was worth their friendships, it was worth their morality, it was worth everything to them. And then, of course, there were some Legends books that came out. I think there was a Republic Commandos book that talked about one squad who decided not to do Order 66. Yeah. And you could really play around with that dynamic that each clone had to make a personal choice. And I was a big fan of this. I thought this was a fantastic use of storytelling. I thought this made the clones very complex and very interesting, and it really gave a lot to their humanity in the fact that they did feel like they were betraying their friends, but at the same time, they felt like they were saving the galaxy. Then the Clone Wars came out, and the writers tried to make the clones like buddy buddies. You know, they tried to develop those relationships.
It's a brand of brothers. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They tried to kind of, you know, individualize each of the clones. They gave everyone nicknames. You know, they had different clones show up in different episodes. You know, you could see like repeating ones and see how they had risen through the ranks of the wars. And they developed those relationships between the Jedi and the Jedi trying to give the clones some humanity. And eventually the writers, in my opinion, they went a little too far in this.
Okay.
They took the character concept of the clones as being soldiers first that happened to be humans into humans that happened to be soldiers. And when they did this, they realized, oh shoot, if these are the clones that murder all the Jedi, they're gonna look like the evilest people in the world, right? We can't do it. We can't have them murder Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's not possible. So they put in a little inhibitor chip. And so basically what this inhibitor chip did was whenever a clone wasn't going to obey an order or wasn't going to follow through on some sort of, you know, executive thing, it would just activate and it would force them to do it.
Plot hole speckle.
Yeah,
maybe. So, I mean, again, I'm kind of to the original point. Like, again, they're getting flash memory, and they're like 3 years old when they're like full adults. So, I think I'm kind of with you. I kind of like both because the original intention of the inhibitor chip was for them to not harm the Jedi or Papa Palpatine. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to touch it, but I think again, our good friend Palpatine basically said, let's flip it, and the protocol was basically, the Jedi were labeled traitors, and therefore it's a coup, and we got to execute them, and save the Republic.
For the Republic.
Yeah.
Save the Republic.
Yeah.
So the inhibitor chip, basically, it really, ironically, very ironically, it kind of took away the humanity and the complexity of the clones. Instead of being these very loyal soldiers who actually wanted to do the right thing, and so they acted on what they thought was the right thing, instead they just became kind of a group of regular guys that unfortunately were clones, and they were just kind of forced to kill off all the Jedi. And I understand why the writers did that, but I feel like it really undermined, some of the really philosophical questions that were brought up earlier. Like, are we good people, or have we just not been forced to make rough decisions? So that's kind of my spiel.
That's your spiel.
That's my spiel.
Heather, what?
Man.
Heather, that's a good spiel.
Yeah.
Heather, what are your thoughts?
Well, so this is not my favorite movie, so I don't watch it a lot.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just paint the picture.
Yeah.
But for what this scene in this moment in time is in the overarching story, that is, there's something oddly really poetic about it. Just in the sense that you have to be able to communicate the good and the bad, the life and the death, within each character.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily make it right, doesn't make it wrong. But I think when I was rewatching it in preparation for this episode, there was just something, and it could be the music, it could be the back and forth and just seeing, key people, get murdered and that kind of thing. But I don't know. There is just something kind of like, nope, it makes sense to be part of the bigger story.
Yeah, I mean,
if that makes sense without being completely morbid and dark.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a well executed plan. Because
it is.
The other thing that we forget to bring up is that the Jedi are not in the spot they want to be in either. They're turned, these are peacekeepers, and they're turned into generals, and that's kind of the whole point of the Clone Wars. Is again, Lucas's vision of like Vietnam. Like, we're not really supposed to be in this spot, but we are, and so there is a humanity as far as a band of brothers and sticking together. Like, we might not understand the cause, but we're here in it together. Let's make the most of it, But there is, like to Heather's point, there is a little somewhat of a beauty to it, and it is, I think, part of it, and visually, is because of John Williams' score. It's sad though. It's so sad, and to think that's the other thing is like, there's thousands of Jedi, and they're all fighting these little battles. They're all spread out thin throughout the galaxy, and only a few survive. And that's the end game for Papa P. That's the end game for him, and Papa it's just P. Like, and he converted the superstar to the bad side. It's like,
yeah,
the prized pupil, and he's been working on that relationship from day one. Day one, he's been grooming Anakin to those seeds of disloyalty and those seeds of distrust. He's been planting those things because he's a Sith Lord. He understands Anakin's desires and feeds into it, and feeds into the relationship with Padme as well,
And yeah, he does put the Jedi into an awkward position because they're not all at, the Jedi Temple just kind of attending to business and making sure that the Republic is safe. It's like they're all spread out across the galaxy fighting some stupid war.
Right.
And they're, they don't have each other to rely on.
Right. And at this climax too, Mace Windu is like, he's the same way. He loves the Republic like more than the Order. He loves, and he sees the falling apart when it got all bogged out in the Senate, and he got emergency power and all this stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, this is not going well. And once it's revealed that Palpatine was behind all this, and he gets the posse together and says, you know what, we're ending this right now, and when they go to arrest him, that's when Papa P's like, yeah, I'm the Sith Lord. And Mace is like, we got to take this guy out. We're not going to... This is going to get hung up in, the Senate for another 30 years before we get this, And he basically says, we got to do it. It's not the Jedi way, but we got to end this the only way possible, And that's where...
Desperate times,
yeah, and that's where he and all that building, all that thing that he's planting that seed in Anakin's head snaps just like that, just like Order 66. It says, see what they're doing? They're gonna stop me, and you're not gonna be able to have eternal life with Padme. And then boom. Classic Star Wars. Mace loses his hand and then he gets flown out the window. So it's like,
yep. That's like the Darth Vader fight with Luke at the end of Empire, just condensed into like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I like how you were saying about how Mace realizes that killing Palpatine is not really what the Jedi are all about. They're all about fair trials and representing themselves well. But Palpatine he's in such a good position. He controls everything at this point, and there's just no way that the Jedi can do what they normally are supposed to do. And that's kind of what the whole war has done to them. It's really compromised them as a group. And Palpatine, especially when it came to like public opinion of the Jedi and Anakin specifically, had really been plugging in those little seeds of doubt. Maybe the Jedi aren't like super merciful, nice people. Maybe... telling Anakin, maybe one day the Jedi is going to ask you to do something that's against the code. And he really, he knows Palpatine's very intelligent, knowing what this war is going to do to them as a collective. And he really sets that up, that double fall very well.
Yep.
Man, it's like the clones don't know who they are. The Jedi don't know who they are. Nobody knows who they are anymore.
The only one that knows the true purpose is the one that's controlling it. It's the puppet master. It's Palpatine. He's planting all those seeds, and it's like Heather said, there's some beauty into it, but it's dark. It's a dark beauty.
Yeah,
it's a dark beauty. Yes.
Yeah.
And Order 66 is the first domino that takes all of them down.
I would say it's the last domino.
Really?
Yeah, but I would kind of agree. I mean, I would kind of agree with JD because it's like this is all, again, the whole C-SPAN in space that we hated in episode 1 was the whole start of it. He's getting, and the fact that the other kind of main point that kind of gets missed through our episode 1 is that businesses have a seat at the Senate. So you have the banking clan and all these other people that are just businesses actually have a voting right in the Senate, which doesn't make any sense. That's like
corporations.
that's like Amazon and Walmart be able to vote in the Senate. It's like that doesn't make any sense. But
wait, does Amazon not already do that?
It's very possible. It's very possible.
Corporations being able to use their money to influence political decisions, we won't stand for that in our real world.
Right.
Oh, There we go. Standing for that.
Oh no!
Exactly.
Oh.
That's exactly what we're doing.
No. But yeah, I mean, that's
Thank you for tuning in to WSTR for our hard-hitting political commentary.
right. Exactly. I mean, that's where the seeds of corruption happen, and that's all starting. And this little Order 66 is basically wiping out his enemy, his last piece, because he knows he can manipulate the Senate and the galaxy. It's the only ones that are going to stop him are the Jedi, and this is this little piece at the end that, you know, and that's the other thing that's just kind of heart-wrenching and ironic at the same time, is that he's got the superstar on his side. He just made the trade, you know. It's like it's like, dude, like, oh man, it's just so bad. It's really bad. So
Any last thoughts on Order 66?
I wish every day that I go to Portillo's that I'm Order 66.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Todd, you've been trying for a while.
And in fact, the last week, I'm going to Portillo's. I overhear the cashier say, "Oh, you're Order 65," and I'm next in line. I'm like, finally, it's gonna happen. And there's another couple next to me ordering at the same time, and obviously there's a drive-through, so there's a lot of permutations. And I'm like, hurry up, get the order in. And then I was like. And then the cashier right next to me is like, "Oh, you're Order 66." And I just wanted to throw everything, throw my phone, and just say, "No!" You know? And
Can I buy your meal from you, sir?
yes, exactly. So
Wow.
I was Order
Bummer,
69, and I'm just like, this isn't worth it. I might as well just leave.
Oh no!
Bummer, dude.
But yes, one day. I'm with Heather. I'm like, one day it's gonna happen. So
Yep. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I feel like we just peeled back the onion, you know? Maybe we'll do a part 2.
Yeah,
maybe we'll
that's
do
true.
a part 2 sometime, you know.
Maybe.
Ooh, part 2, the prequel.
Tune in next week. All right.
Well, yeah, let's wrap up our main topic with some more excerpts from C2E2.
Oh, let's do that.
Okay, so if you don't recall or weren't paying attention last episode, we went to C2E2, Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. That's basically the best thing we've got next to San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Here in Chicago, we went, we saw, we interviewed a bunch of people, we conquered. It was
awesome.
Want to hear some of it?
Please.
Yes.
Here we got member of the 501st, TK9336, a First Order Trooper.
TK9336, the First Order Stormtrooper.
Excellent. And you got a blaster with you, too. What's that like?
Oh, it's nice to carry a pistol instead of the rifle because forearms are much more bulkier than the old school Stormtroopers. So you can't really cross your arms.
That's fantastic. How long you been trooping?
I've been trooping since 2010.
Awesome. And how long did it take to get this costume together?
This was a couple years, honestly, but we got it together with the help of my friend here, 21831. We had it done in probably a couple months.
That's fantastic. And you local with the Midwest Garrison?
Yes, sir, right up in Wakanda.
Awesome, not too far from here. Tell our listeners why you love Star Wars so much.
Star Wars has allowed me to do things I never thought I'd do before. On my 18th birthday, I was on stage with Weird Al. In 2013, I was working with Lucasfilm. I mean, all because I wanted to be a stormtrooper, you know, and now we're helping kids and doing family events and community events as well.
Okay, what do you guys think about that?
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda!
Let's talk about Black Panther now.
Second lame joke of the night, and it's wonderful. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
that's totally true. Join the 501st and get to do cool things and have fun while you're doing it. You know, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so this guy was fun to interview because a lot of the troopers that I interviewed, they didn't have like a microphone and speakers set up in their costume, so I just kind of had to like stick the microphone like underneath their chin, like where there's a little gap between their chest and helmet and hope for the best, and turned out pretty good. But this guy, he had a speaker unit, microphone in his helmet, speaker in like a pack on his hip. So
Yep.
I had to like look him in the eyes and then hold the microphone down by his hip and go back and forth between myself and his pack. So it's kind of weird, but I think it turned out well.
It sounded good. It
did.
Again, a constant professional you are, my friend.
Oh, dude, I try.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah.
Okay, up next, we got a bit of a lengthy one. It's two people, a shadow trooper, I believe, and if I recall correctly, a Imperial engineer.
Okay, my name is Nicole Kinzel. I'm part of the 501st Legion. I'm dressed as a shadow trooper today. And 501st Legion is a worldwide costuming organization. We do a bunch of volunteer work. We're a nonprofit organization. And we have a booth here at C2E2, so we just finished up our Star Wars meet. So we're here just kind of hanging out, cooling off.
Awesome. And you?
My name is Chris Ashbrooks. I'm here for my first time dressing up in an official costume. I'm a TIE Reserve pilot, and I can use a flexible costume like this to do a bunch of different costumes later on. And it's real nice to help Nicole out with crowds and photos.
Awesome.
He's my pack mule.
Gotcha. And how long have you been trooping?
I have been officially part of the 501st since last year in March. I've been working with the 501st. We're part of Northern Darkness Garrison, which is all Northwest Indiana. We've been working with them for approximately about 2.5 years now. So, but in costume fully for about a year, a little over a year.
Excellent. How long did it take to put together?
Well, the outfits come as kits, some of them. This one overall took me about working straight through 2 weeks, a lot of long nights. So it's a lot of armor builds and sanding things, but it came as a kit. And then we did a lot of electronics inside my helmet, so I have fans and such. So that took a while to figure out.
That's a luxury.
Yeah, it is. It kind of helps with getting too hot and whatnot. Plus we have coolants on the inside. So.
Excellent. And you?
This costume only takes about 2 to 3 days of actual work. A lot of it can be ordered online, and then there's some custom things, like there's a communications pad on the side and a couple custom-made metal pieces, but a lot of it is available online.
Yeah, a lot of the costumes for instance, the TIE Reserve, where it's a lot of fabrics and soft builds, some of them are pre-made. There are some alterations that have to be met because with the 501st we do have standards they have to be screen accurate. So one of the modifications we have to make on his was we had to move the patches up. We had to adjust some of the pockets, make sure everything was fitted properly. And the belt and the com pad was 3D printed. There's a guy in Midwest Garrison, his name is Charg. He actually makes the com pads and he makes them with LED lights so they actually light up. But we also 3D print our own.
That's fantastic. Tell us a bit more about those standards.
So as far as the standards go, we have a website called it's 501st.com, and there's a link that goes to the costume reference library. And when you click on that, everything is separated into detachments. So for instance, he's part of the Jolly Roger Squadron detachment. I'm part of Spec Ops, which is what's on my patch right here. And every single detachment is broke down to what type of costume. So from there, you click on the costume, and then it has a full breakdown from anything that was in the film. You got reference photos. Everything has to be very detailed, and there's different levels of approval. So if there's basic approval, and sometimes there's a second and third tier. Third tier is basically you are spot on, you are from a character from the movie, all of us are. But third level is everything, every single screw, every single seam is exactly where it's supposed to be. All of us are, our standard is you're supposed to look like you just walked off of the set of the film. But we're always welcome to helping people who are making their own costumes at home, help them make, up to our standards, and then get them approved. Because everything has to go through an approval phase. You take photographs, you rotate 360 degrees, arms up in the air, arms down, and we kind of do photos. And then if something's not right, we go back and we fix it. And if there's a new recruit coming in, we go in and we help them.
Why is it important to have these standards?
The importance of the standard is we have a Lucasfilm agreement with them where we're allowed to wear, build, and advertise them, and they also call us in for actual Lucasfilm events. So a lot of the people out in California, for instance, that particular garrison does a lot of work with Disney. And so they'll get called in to do shoots for any of the Star Wars movies. Some of our guys have even been on the movie set. I myself have not. I'd love to. But there's a lot of people who have or been part of it. We're also a big group with R2 builders and mouse droid builders, which he can probably tell you a little bit more about that side of it because he's actually working on a mouse droid. But they actually call them to go and use the R2 units that we make to go on the set.
That's wonderful. Tell us about the R2 building.
The R2 building, there's a big forum group for both R2 builders and mouse droid builders. There's a very extensive library that everyone can get access to and start looking at the technical files, the prints for how to build an R2-D2, how to build different variations of R2-D2 type droids. And then there's a separate group where people do part runs, so you can order parts from them, and they're all licensed through Lucasfilm to be able to create and sell these within that group. And then there's build logs, build guides, and it's all a big family, and it's a big resource to help people build these amazing machines.
So why did you pick the characters that you did?
Well, the thing that we always tell new people coming into this is pick the costume that you love and that draws you to it. I myself, out of costume, all of our garrison members know me as the person that doesn't wear anything but black, and my costume is completely black outside of the couple silver details on my helmet. So it just suited me. It suits my personality. It's really mean looking and very intimidating. I'm like 6'2", so I like to have that mean kind of thing. Appearance. However, like one of the things that we work with is a lot of the kids. So even though my costume is more intimidating, I'm always willing to get down, kind of interact with the kids. They love it. We always like kind of try to gear ourselves more towards them because that's really what we do this for, is the charity aspect and just, making the kids smile. And obviously the adults get a kick out of it too, but it's all geared towards the kids. Another reason why I chose this particular one is it was really sleek looking. I like carrying my big, I have a DLT-19, love carrying that. I also have a Biker Scout and also a TIE Reserve, which is what Chris is wearing. And I chose the Biker Scout because, one, I can barely sit down in this one, so when I need a break, it's soft and I can sit with it. Plus, I don't like Ewoks that much, so I'll get to shoot them. And the TIE Reserve is it's a way to build onto become a TIE pilot. So you need to have a TIE Reserve first. It's like all the parts, and then from there you can get the hard armor, become a TIE pilot, and you have two costumes in one. So it's just kind of convenient. Plus, I like it.
Is that why you picked the TIE Reserve for that expandability later on?
Yeah, it's more of a utility thing for me because I've been doing handling, which is kind of working with the customers and working with the crowds to form lines and keep everybody safe. I've been doing that for 2 years. So as a TIE Reserve in this costume, I've got a lot of visibility. I'm not wearing any helmet or anything, and I can carry things and kind of be the face of the garrison. Everybody else is in helmets. I'm able to approach people and talk to them about what the garrison is and what we do.
Outside of me having my helmet off right now, I wouldn't really be able to talk to you because I couldn't hear or see. I can only see from my nose down, from my nose up. I can't see anything below that. So I wouldn't be able to talk to you. So if someone's messing with my belt or asking me to take a photo, if there's a small child in front of me, he would be the one I would go to. So we're really reliant on the people in these types of costumes especially when we're in hard armor, because otherwise we don't know where we're going. We can't always see everything. So it's really a perk. Plus you also use it for when you do your mouse droid as well, because he's going to be building a mouse droid of his own. So that way, when you're in the helmet, you can't drive it. Here, he can discreetly be in costume, handle, and have the mouse droid. So it's convenient, again.
So tell our listeners why you love Star Wars so much.
Oh, God. That's always a trick question. I've loved Star Wars since I was a small child. I grew up with this. My dad introduced me to the movies when I was 4 or 5, and I've always kind of been drawn to them. All my friends know me as an original trilogy purist. I like the new movies to a point, but the original 3 are what draw me in every time. And it's just one of those things, I've always said when I was younger, I want to be a stormtrooper. It's one of those cliche things that a lot of us do always hope, and some of us actually eventually get to that point. But it's really the fantasy of it, getting to go to an escape. It's just really, really awesome to become that character, get to, go to conventions like these, go to, again, the part that comes in with the 501st is the hospital troops that we do, just making kids smile. And everybody like across the world knows what Star Wars is, at least, you know, the majority of people. So even if you don't speak a language between somebody, having something like this on, or just knowing that you're part of the same fandom, you can relate.
And you?
So, besides the original trilogy movies and everything related to that, I also have a deep connection with Star Wars from the old video games. Me and my dad used to play the X-Wing flight simulator games, and I got really attached to the universe there. I would play games and generate my own simulations using some features in the game, and create my own stories that kind of way. And I kind of grew into that. I did a whole bunch of that as a kid, and science fiction as a whole always interested me. And what the 501st has allowed me to do, and the droid builders and the mouse droid builders have allowed me to do, is take that and make something with it. So there's a lot of... I'm an electrical engineer by day, and then being able to use those skills to make an R2-D2 unit or a mouse droid is amazing, and it's real cool to interact with the kids and to be able to use that technical knowledge to make something that's from another universe.
So there you have it, a very informative interview from Nicole and Chris.
Yeah, that's like a 501st like 101 right there, man.
Yeah, quite a lot of effort goes into each costume for the 501st, and we kind of forget that, but very impressive. I believe they're out of the Northern Darkness Garrison, which is from Minnesota, up Brainerd, and yeah, they were a lot of fun.
And Heather got to be my handler at C22.
It's true.
It's true. She saved
held your hand going up the escalator,
and she saved me from she did save me from killing a kid too, which was fantastic. I really appreciate that.
Oh
yeah. I saved a child.
Don't do what Anakin does.
Well, no, it's just like, you know, when you're like what she was saying is like, you know, when you're in hard armor and stuff like that, it's just you can't really see a lot. And so I turned around and Heather's like, hold on, and I was like, there's a kid like right in front of me. I'm like, I would have trampled him.
That is ill-advised at best.
Exactly. Don't trample the kids, please. You know,
unless you have a really good reason.
Right.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do
jokes.
Jokes.
Yeah, but that's really good.
Hashtag save the younglings.
Yeah, save the
Hashtag
younglings.
save the younglings.
Yes.
Yeah, great interview, great questions, Aaron, and they had a lot to share, which was fantastic.
Which is great.
Thanks, man. I had fun playing a reporter for a day. That was my cosplay.
Yeah, well, I think we already agreed. You have to do the voice of like the 1920s, like kind of.
Yeah. So what are you doing here at C2E2 today? I want fun.
I want fun. What kind of costume was that?
Maybe someday. Maybe someday.
Yeah, no, next year. It's happening.
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Don't spoil it.
I know.
Spoilers.
It was a tease. That's a tease, you know.
It's a tease. Yes. Teaser trailer. Film comes out next year.
Teaser trailer.
All right. Shall we move on to news of the week?
And now, the Star Wars news of the week.
Okay. First up, I guess, yeah, we're happening. It's happening right now, whether you want it or not. So first up, here we go. Force Awakens had like 16 of them. The Last Jedi had, at least 15. And the TV spots are starting to roll for Han Solo. We are getting desperately close. We're almost a month out. And we had one drop on Sunday, which was called The Crew, which basically was kind of planting seeds of how the crew's getting started to do the heist, as I think is going to happen. And then today on the 17th, they just dropped another trailer or a little TV spot called Risk. And Risk, not the
that's my favorite board game.
It's a fun board game.
Not the board game. Yeah, so they're coming. They're and they all have like just a little bit more. So yeah, it should be interesting what's going to happen. But this is where it gets a little. We're getting close to spoiler town. It's like we got to stay away. Got to stay away from these TV spots.
I will say, if you've got your doubts about Alden Ehrenreich being a good Han Solo, might want to give these TV spots a watch, because we see some more lines from him, some banter between he and Chewie.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic about this movie.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Tomorrow, the 18th, when this episode drops, speak about Battlefront. Battlefront 2 is dropping a new free episode called Night on Endor. And yes, Heather, your dreams have come true. You can play an Ewok. And you can kill stormtroopers just for funs and giggles.
So now I need to get a gaming system.
Yeah, right. This is another downward spiral for you, Heather. That means you got to get a gaming system, get a nice 4K TV. I mean, just so you can be some Ewoks and do some yub on the old stormtroopers.
I mean, the alternative is just get a computer, go onto Steam, get the old Battlefront 2, and play Ewoks there.
That's too much work.
It's like $5.
Right.
It's worth it.
Right. $5,
I don't know. I think Minerva and Alsab are going to have to go a little hungry for a little bit.
I know, right? No food for the kitties.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's coming out tomorrow. Or as this episode drops, it will be out today. So there you go. And it's going to have a bunch of fixes, but the main thing is you get to be some Ewoks, and then obviously they're going to add some more Endor costumes for our hero characters, which would be fun. And finally, another Disney movie, Marvel Infinity War, coming out very, very shortly, and the pre-sales have already outsold all 7 of the last pre-sale Marvel movies combined.
That's
so
wild.
Wow. It's coming. So that's coming out next.
Can anyone spell hype?
Yeah. Well, and
jeez,
dude. The other thing too, just real quick, is that they dropped the part 1. So this is a 2-part movie, but they trying to dupe the audience. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah. So there's going to be a cliffhanger.
A huge cliffhanger. Yeah.
Calling it now. Don't come running back to me and go, oh, I didn't know. Because now you know.
Now you know. So there you go. That wraps up the news of the week. Aaron, you want to put a nice little bow on our Order 66, episode 67?
I'm a little clumsy, but I'll do my best. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Podcast. Thank you to our very special guest, Mr. J.D. Barrow, for stepping in.
Thank you for having me.
JD.
Dropping that fat knowledge bomb about Order 66. Once again, you can check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. We want to hear from you. So please comment, tweet, rate us on iTunes, email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Fan mail, hate mail, doesn't matter. We want it. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. You could leave us a voicemail and we might play it on an upcoming podcast.
Ooh.
Or you can catch all of our catalog of episodes at www.wstrmedia.com. That's www.wstrmedia.com.
So many W's.
So many W's. Now you know all the ways to get a hold of us. Next week, the only thing we'll ever talk about, something
about Star Wars.
That's my
something
favorite
about Star Wars.
Hey.
All together now. Now this is podcasting. Go Ewoks.
Yub.
Dead kids.
Yep.
We've got dead kids.
Oh my God.
That could should have just tried spinning, because that's a good trick.
If only they knew.